The Passionate Leader, because leadership without passion is just a title.
Meeting. We got a collapse in the garage. Get the squad back equipment in here. We got an I-beam gone to a firefighter.
Get that out, urgent, transmit a second alarm.
This is where titles end and leadership begins. Ask yourself this. If part one with our conversation with Jason Freeman about the fire service, our culture, and how we can embrace the change got you worked up, you think you want to miss part two? In part two with Jason Freeman, we pick up where we left off. We're going to talk about his journeys to continuing education, how he learned to embrace change and overcoming criticism as he did. Part two of our conversation with Jason Freeman is next. If you have not heard part one, please go back and listen to part one with Jason Freeman here on The Passionate Leader.
So,
yeah, we just started in our house, finally doing like a lieutenant boot camp, and it really was something that I pushed for when I first became a lieutenant, because it was one of those, you're you're a probationary firefighter to a regular firefighter, and you don't even know that your probationary period ever ended, and then it was, you're
Right.
sort of like, you got your CDL, and now you were a driver, and then all of a sudden you're a lieutenant when there's a vacancy, and here's your portable, have a great day. And I'm like, what do I do? Right. So we finally by change, we had a change at the helm, and we're able to finally get some positive progression in our department, where we now have a lieutenant boot camp. And it doesn't necessarily, it's a requirement to test out to be a lieutenant in our house, but it's more so in geared specifically at, this is how to be an officer. This is some of the stuff you're going to experience as a lieutenant here in Brookline. This is, how to do an incident report run, first injury report, because, somebody goes and, slams their finger in a compartment door. I mean, that's the stupid stuff that nobody ever teaches you how to do. It's very relatively stressful if it's your first time and it's 2:00 in the morning. You're like, oh my God, I gotta, we have a very, very strict, every boo-boo gets written up, because, that simple slice on your finger, that, it's a paper cut today, but now you just lost your ring finger, in a week because
Right.
of a staph infection.
Exactly right.
So it was an amazing program. And it's part of, like I said, it's a prereq to become a lieutenant in the fire department. And then you have the test you got to take, and then there's oral boards and stuff like that. But I feel that we're starting to get somewhere with this positive. And it's funny because I think we had 7 or 8 guys that took it, and we're a 30-member department. So that's a pretty decent amount of our guys that took it.
Sure.
And during one of the presentation, my section of the class is motivating and mentoring, and one of the slides I throw up is just the crowd engaging question, why are you here? And I was thrown back with a lot of guys who were just like, I just want to know what you guys have to do as officers. And I'm like, dude, what an ingenious idea, that now, just like we opened up with, as far as having to go wash the truck, instead of me being mad at you for telling me that I got to go wash the engine because the mayor, if I knew the mayor was coming down, or, you know what I mean? It's just, what an amazing concept of just communicating what everybody's job in the service is. And that's probably, there's another, solution to kind of helping with some burnout and some fatigue in the fire service too, is it's teaching other members what our jobs are, because generally speaking, I mean, everybody's in the service because the t-shirts are cool, right? But the
Right.
concept of helping somebody is really why we are in the fire service. And what is, there's no difference in whether they're helping the citizens, or I'm like, oh my God, we got to get the truck ready. Jason's doing a run, right now. He's doing all his paperwork and all of his, nonsense stuff. Let's go get the rest of the company, and we're going to go get this truck washed up because the mayor's coming in at, 800 hours in the morning. Let's just get it done. And because we communicated that, and, I'm helping you, I feel good for helping you. I'm still doing my job by helping somebody. So, and I think that's kind of the way I think sometimes, and I've seen it too, where people will promote up and they just feel like they gotta take this, what's the phrase? You can only, eat an elephant, bite by bite. I think they're trying to eat the elephant, one in one foul swoop. And I think it's just burning them out because we have good classes to get people book ready for things, but we don't have a lot to get them ready for the street. And when it comes to the
100%.
officer side, and
100%.
um, and I don't know what there is no magic wand or crystal ball for it, but I think through, like I said, conversations like we're having today, we're just spitballing some ideas. We got the lives that I do on Sunday nights on TikTok that kind of we just spin a wheel and we just talk about whatever the hell comes to mind or whatever the topic is, and it's stuff like this that comes up. It's how do we keep members in the firehouse, and generally speaking, for the paid professionals, it's easy if you have a boss who's kind of a more of a tyrant, and he kind of he or she is more of I am this, I am that, I, me. If you're getting paid a pretty good dollar, it's like, well, you know what, they're an a-hole, but I got a pretty damn good check every couple of weeks, so it is what it is. But
Sure. Sure.
on the unpaid professional side is where it's really hurting, because people are finally really they're seeing the value in their time away from their family. And if it's not being valued, then why am I going to come out to a training when, and you're going to tell us how horrible we did, and,
Yep.
if you are a true unpaid professional, or, a poorly compensated, professional, then well, I'm not going to do it for, for $1,000 stipend a year. Like, you can kiss my backside on the way out the door type thing.
100%. I've had these conversations too, where during trainings in the past, it hasn't happened for quite some time, but there was maybe they had to be shown how to do the AAA X amount of times, and the
Mm.
instructor got frustrated. The next thing they're yelling and screaming, and I can't remember the last time anybody yelled and screamed at me, and I thought, gee whiz, I want to be just like this guy when I grow up. It's never going to happen. It just won't.
No.
So, the larger part of that is that if you treat people poorly, and especially like you said, either unpaid professionals or poorly compensated professionals, they're going to leave. I
Yeah.
would. And that's just being honest. I've got better things to do than being yelled and screamed at. I just do. And especially if I've already got a full-time job where I'm
Yeah.
also getting yelled and screamed at all the time.
Right.
No one's going to subject themselves to that voluntarily. They're just not going to do it.
Mm.
So I think that treating them with just a modicum of respect will get you miles ahead of yelling at them ever.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Preach, brother. I love it. Well, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. If it is an unpaid professional, they're going to go do a career somewhere else. And I mean, let's not kid ourselves. The fire service is not the only industry that has a huge disparity of quality leaders. I mean, it's everywhere. It can be in the burger flipping business. It can be in the telephone pole installation business. It's a lot of people who feel that they have to be more loyal to not loyal to the mission, loyal to the process than they are to their people and to the mission of the organization. And I feel it's based upon putting the far more emphasis on quantity than quality type thing. I worked for tyrants in a metal manufacturing company before, and it was no different. It was the do as I say, not as I do, because I am the boss type stuff. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter whether it's the fire service, and it really just, I think it boils down to just basic human decency. It's really not
it does.
hard
And
to
just have some
care about
basic,
us.
yeah, just some basic people management skills. And
Yeah.
but now I'm not claiming to be a professional at that, but I am learning all the time. And fortunately, right now, I mean, I'm in a position now where I have a wonderful partner. She works with organizational change management, and she has taught
Okay.
me so much. I can't even tell you. So I could come to her sometimes, and I'm frustrated with this and that. And she told me one time, and we were talking about, feeling like you're unapproachable, or uh, or people just flat telling you, I'm not comfortable coming to talk to you. And She says, well, it's your face. It's just, it's
Thanks.
who you are, so once you realize that and you own it, now you you can take steps to correct it, right?
Sure.
So, and that's what being an officer is really, it's a series of learning from mistakes. It really
Mm,
is. I don't believe that there's an officer in the fire service that was just born to be. I just don't.
mm,
I think they've all had to learn hard lessons, and we will through our whole career, and that's what makes it challenging. And it's what makes it fun. It's what makes it I love learning new things.
mm.
But it can also contribute to some of the burnout that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And especially if you don't have support from the upper echelon. That's the hardest part for me is
Mm.
without going into a huge amount of detail, I've often found myself in a position where I had to be the buffer between admin and a firefighter.
Yep.
And that's the tough part of being a leader, right? I
Mm.
mean, I don't want to say it's tough. That's probably not the right way to phrase it. It's challenging
Yeah.
because it puts you in a spot. And that's just being honest. I think anybody would feel the same way. More than once, I've had admin come down to, I want this firefighter's name. And you just got to tell them it doesn't matter. They didn't do
Mhm.
anything I didn't tell them to do. So lay it on me. And
Yeah, I
you
like
won't.
it.
You do. And it happens. So, and I hope I just got, I'm 48 years old and I just got braces. So I'm learning how to speak again.
Oh,
So
no, I I
it's
have you had any of your mustache hairs get stuck in your braces yet or no?
not yet, not yet.
Dude, if it happens after the show, you can
Yeah,
call me and be like, "Listen, asshole, thanks, buddy, you called it."
100%. It will happen now.
Dude, for real. No, so dude, but having a resource at home like you do is actually that's a hell of a resource to have where you can kind of be like, "Hey, listen, this is the situation, lay it all out in the line." And they have the expertise to just be like, blah blah blah. And you're like, "Oh, yeah, didn't
Oh,
see it that
100%.
way."
Yeah, she's really good with. She's wonderful with her kids. She's wonderful with me. She's great with her coworkers. Like she just gets it. She knows how to talk to people in a way that
Yeah.
I still struggle with at times.
Now, is having her as a resource something that you could use to bring into your firehouse or even some other ones in the area to kind of help with that?
So we've talked about that, but we haven't made any solid plans yet. That concept is still in its infancy, but I do see that could be a part of a kind of a regional training uh,
Mhm.
center, for aspiring officers. I think that'd be phenomenal.
I will tell you that the best thing to do is it's sort of like either waiting for the right time to buy the new rig or you want to buy a
Right,
house,
right.
dude, just like I did with this passionate leader platform, dude. Blind faith, face first, jump into it. That's just the best thing I can tell you. That's what I did with this. But that's actually really exciting to know that's something that even if it's for your area, it's going to spark because there's not a lot of that happens in the fire service. And there's somebody I'm working to get on that he's on TikTok and he specializes in coaching people on how to interview well and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's got really nothing to do specifically with leading in the fire service, but it's such an invaluable skill that again, people are not taught this stuff in high school or even in college as far as how to sit in an interview room and not feel absolutely intimidated and belittled by these questions because they're just trying to feel you out. So we just trying to get our schedules to link up, but dude, stuff like that, that's really good stuff. I think you might have a what's the phrase, an ace in your back pocket that a lot of people are that don't have. That's a good thing. I definitely think you'll get full support from the Passionate Leader platform when that
Right.
happens.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, we'll have that conversation at larger in depth. But I was when I first met her, and she told me she did occupational change management. I was okay. What is that?
Yeah, I was
Uh,
like, "What?"
but the funny thing is not long afterwards, I was at a union convention and I was talking to another firefighter from it's about 3 hours away or so. And we were talking, and he was telling me about his wife, and I was telling him about Rachel, and I told him what she did, and he's all like, "No shit, I have a degree in occupational change management." I was like,
Really?
"Okay." So, yeah, things
Man.
can tend to happen in deuces or triples or triplets. It
Yeah.
just seems kind of it seemed a little serendipitous. It was a little weird. Um,
No, yep.
but
That's
it's kind of
so
like you hear a word for the first time, and then within 24 hours you hear it a second time, and you're like, what is this?"
yep. Or sometimes I'll be talking about, hang on a second, cheap car rentals, and watch this, it'll come up on my phone tomorrow morning, I guarantee it.
Yep,
It's just the FBI agents are always listening, I swear.
that's right.
I
That's right.
no, it is, I think, I really do think that, people that have these, um I don't want to say uncommon, like that they're not like popular or anything, but like the unique degrees. It's I didn't know there was a such thing as that until tonight. So I'm glad you could clue me into. I'm going to go and look and see exactly what that is, because I think it's something that's so um prevalent, especially to the fire service, because we talked on it a little bit earlier about if people are being mistreated and they're the unpaid professional side, then they're going to get up and leave. But what's to say that even on the career side, that you're not gonna be like, "You know what?" Because every firehouse in the world is basically hiring right now. So what's to say that you're not like, "You know what, man? Sunset Beach, Florida looks like a really good place, and we're going."
Right.
And they're so I mean, it is, yeah, it's crappy, crappy leaders are making people just, it's causing our problem. We're having the attrition problem, but it's not the attrition side where we need to get, rid of the poor leadership tactics. It's the good people are getting forced out of a job. I just saw today that people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses.
That's right. That's right. I believe that too. In fact, that's one of the reasons I got so excited when I started seeing some of your TikToks come across my feed. I'm like, this guy, he's dialed into something, and I'd like to explore it, because you're right. I don't have the solution either, but
Mm,
I think collectively, the one thing firefighters are amazing at is finding solutions when they work together. But I
mhm.
don't think that there's nobody out there that just has all the answers. And
Yeah.
firefighters, and you kind of started to nail something on the head there too. They hate two things, right? They hate change and the way things are.
Yep.
So it's so hard to get them on board with any kind of change. But if we can identify the problem, and I truly believe this, and work collectively to solve it, we will. We solve
Mm.
everything else, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. Oh,
complicated
yeah.
fires, medical problems, we do it all. So why can't we take that same mindset and apply it to this very real, very prevalent problem within the fire service? I know we can. We just got to
Yeah.
find the right people.
Oh, and I remember, I think it was one of the shorts that I put of the presentation I did at a small department in Vermont, and somebody made the comment, we don't need another leadership, PowerPoint. So of course, me being me, I don't I'm not going to let things slide. So I'll address it face first, head on. And like I said in my response reply video to him, was that it's not one, it's not your run of the mill leadership PowerPoint. And two, even if it was, if there's so many of them out there, why do we still have a problem?
Right.
And it's generally speaking, I think what I've seen a lot of times is the ones that really need to hear our message are the ones that don't go to these seminars, they don't listen to the shows, or even are on the social media. And it's unfortunate. And the ones that actually are listening are typically the ones that are the first to attack. They find the low hanging fruit, or they try to chirp the loudest because they think that, I get a ton of people calling out certain things, attributes of my own, when I call out leadership attributes. But
Sure.
they never fight me on what I have to say. They just have to try to find something about me that they can go at. I'm like, go ahead, like, go pick the low hanging fruit. That's what the weak people do. Let it rip. And but I'm gonna keep pushing forward because I don't really care. Um, when I say I don't care about what people say, it's not that I want to discredit people's feelings or whatever. Because I mean, I've had a lot of really good conversations that have started from somebody starting kind of down that route of attack, and then all of a sudden we have a really good conversation, and now we have a really good bond behind the scenes as far as me supporting their platform, that them supporting mine, or it's just sometimes just you have to be able to have people that have we're all generally type A personalities, so it's like hitting two by fours together all the time.
Yeah,
But sometimes people have to realize, dude, it's okay to not be right. and
that's
and
right.
I think and one of the coolest things I saw about change was somebody made the comment the other day that um there's some thought process that was some of the older heads that are very resistant to change or improving upon the way we do things, is that if we change the way we do it, it would mean that the way that they learned how to do it is wrong. And it hit it a little different because I'm like, I see that, and it kind of opened my eyes to maybe seeing their point of view a little bit better. But
Sure.
it also, for me, it's like maybe we need to rephrase or reframe how we do things. That this is not it's not a change. Maybe it's an enrichment. We're now taking the search on the boot method that we used to do way back in the 70s and 80s, because we didn't have technology like we do now and all that stuff, to now being able to search offline, search off each other's. I can go in a whole different room while you're in the hallway holding the door anchor, or whatever the case is. That's unheard of, to yesteryear's standards. And it doesn't mean that the way that they were taught is wrong. That's the problem. That is how they were taught. That was the safest method then. Where the problem in lies is making sure that we, acknowledge that, and we're not stuck in the, well, no, that's got to be the right way, because shit changes.
Exactly
That's the
right.
biggest,
That-
that's the
You're
thing.
exactly right. And we need to be able to evolve with it. It's just like fighting
Mm,
fires in legacy homes versus modern construction, right?
right.
So we've had to change some tactics because we're fighting fires that are hotter, faster, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the beauty of it is we don't have to learn two different sets of tactics. Modern tactics work just fine in legacy homes too.
Yes.
So being able to evolve and adopt those new methodologies and all that stuff is fine. To address your earlier point, though, those ad hominem attacks, attacking a person rather than the subject matter, 100%. And that's just people being insecure. These are the
Mm.
same guys that won't participate in training because they're afraid that other people are going to find out how much they don't actually know. So I honestly, and I get your point about not caring what they think and all this stuff, or at least trying not to care what they think. But from
Sure.
my point of view, honestly, you shouldn't, because they're just insecure. They're
Yeah. Oh,
children.
yeah.
They're
Yep.
children. And I know
Yeah.
somebody probably somewhere is listening to this right now, and I'm gonna hear something, or you'll hear something about me, and that's fine. I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't make any difference to me. I truly, truly believe that we as a fire service, we have to evolve with the times. We have to change up our tactics. Maybe that cross leg we're loading and have been loading for 20 years, maybe it's just not all that great. Maybe we
Yeah.
should look at something else. Maybe it works better. Maybe it's easier to learn. Maybe it's easier to deploy, especially for departments that don't have the same
Mm.
personnel there. They're combination departments, right? So you got new
Yeah.
people coming in all the time. You got even the old timers, and they're struggling with a new way to load the crosslay. But we can, if we pick a tactic, right, and we
Mm.
stick with that tactic, we teach them, then we can teach them more. And now we have a foundation, and we can just keep building on. Here's how you do a triple A. Here's how you do the Minuteman, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera. And pretty soon, they'll be just as good at all of those things. So whatever
Yeah.
tactics we decide to change in the future, they're already prepared for.
Oh, I love it. I Do you think that some of the officer burnout is more on workload, or do you think it's more on just a cultural influence?
I think for me, it's a combination of both.
Mm.
So in my district, unfortunately, we have gone through periods of really poor culture, and it's exhausting. It just 100% just takes it right out of a guy. And I've been beating my head against that wall for 20 years.
Mm.
Um, I'm still looking for solutions to that. If I ever find a magic wand, I will certainly pass it on, but I haven't found it yet. Uh, and as far as workload goes, I can't speak for officers in other departments or districts. I know for me, I do all the maintenance in my
Gotcha. Yep.
district as well. So when I'm not doing firefighter stuff, I'm fixing things all the time.
Mm.
And I also do all of our fire inspections. Um, I used to be a training officer as well, and honestly, it just became too much. And
Wow.
so when they had promoted another captain subsequent to me, they gave that responsibility to him, which was a huge load off.
Mm.
Um, but later on, they approached me and asked me if I would take that back on, and I said I have to be honest, I cannot give it the time or the attention that it deserves
Mm.
or that it requires. It's just that's the one thing that we can do as firefighters all day, every day is get better at what we do.
Mhm.
And without me being able to put that kind of emphasis on it, I just wasn't comfortable with taking that on in addition to all the other things I was already doing.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a lot to be said about that because I mean workload is different. I think from my end of the country to yours, and even from either of our locations to excuse me to a neighboring department too. It really depends on just how the town has the department structured and how it's funded because typically speaking, we're going through a lot of departments are going from the exclusively unpaid professionals to combination departments, which is amazing because now it's we're able to get better trainings and everything. But the problem is it puts the workload on whoever is at the firehouse. And right now the way we do it is we're covering 8 Monday through Friday 8 to 4. So
Okay.
really it puts the burden on everybody. um you know, Case in point, I'll use the truck washing example. So we used to have we were hard and fast. If the bell went off and the truck rolled, even if the thing never left the apron, it gets a wash when it comes before it gets backed into the station. Or if it's cold, then you wash it inside. But now because we have staff at the office, and I'm guilty of this myself, even being one of the two full time guys we have, is the don't worry about it. It's kind of late. Let's get back to our
Yep.
families and we'll wash it in the morning. And what happens is who really gets screwed in that situation? It's your it's your daytime shift because now if I'm there and I can say, hey guys, I do not have time tomorrow. I have, because like yourself, I handle inspections, fire prevention stuff, suppression, maintenance is down. It used to be kind of on me to, verify maintenance needed to get done, but now it's somebody else has taken on that role. But so if I'm at the say if I go to a call after hours, I can be like, "Hey, tomorrow guys, I do not have time to wash this rig. We really kind of have to do it tonight." So we sort of, we shot ourselves in the foot with the concept of let the daytime guys handle it. Or, we have a very, very aggressive and amazingly proactive cancer prevention program. So if we go into a house for a burned up electrical motor, all of our stuff gets washed. If it even saw us, if it basically the way we believe is if you can smell it, then your gear gets washed. So,
Yeah.
um, but the downfall is we can't wash a set of gear and get it dried in a day. So who's left to do it? Your daytime shift guys.
Yeah.
So it's
Yep.
we really are kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. But so again, workload is different because if you go where we had more guys and your workload's going to be a little less because then you can have firefighters taking care of washing the truck and the gear while I still handle all the inspection stuff. And there's not the workload. But it really all boils down to what departments can afford to staff in their
Sure.
house at any moment in time.
No, 100%. And it's funny that you're bringing that up because when we first started full time, we were doing something similar. There were four of us, and we worked Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
Mm,
And then we brought on another group of 4 a few years down the road when that became feasible. And then we were 4 days on, 4 days off on 12-hour shifts,
yep.
and until we finally were able to adopt the 4896. Now, the interesting thing about that is we were actually able to get a lot more done when we were working day shift than we are on
Hmm.
shift, because now we went from 40, 40 or 48 working hours a week to 16.
Yeah.
We're there for 48, but if you're taking your time to work, and then you got dinner
Mm,
and you got to sleep, you got to do all those things, we really only have 8 to 10 working hours a day.
yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so it's kind of an interesting dynamic, right? So it
Mm,
seemed like we were behind the ball when we were working just the day shift, but we didn't really realize how much we were getting done until we went to shift. And we were like, oh my
yeah.
God, I've only got 20 hours this week to get these things done
Yeah.
versus the 40 I had before. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. Yeah, that's a really good way to it kind of goes along the thought process of a lot of people where, you go to either 5/8 or 4/10s to get your 40 hours, and there is the belief that the 4/10s you're already in the work mode, take those extra couple hours and then you get your 3-day weekend. I'm like, "Oh, I mean that's where we came up with the 8 to 4. It was just to cover daytime hours, so we have
Sure.
enough we have enough unpaid professionals in the off hours to, I shouldn't say the off hours, but when we're not at the office hours to make up the difference. But we're slowly seeing, because we're 8 to 4, and we seem to have this golden period between like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. where we get calls. And of course, if it's closer to 8, I mean, there's a decent probability that really not a lot of people are going to be there, because I'm still getting ready to head into the office. And that's the unfortunate reality of, so we're looking at kind of starting the per diem shifts and maybe kind of altering how they, whether they come in at 6 and cover that brief moment in time, or, whatever the case is. But, no, this has been a hell of a damn good conversation.
Oh,
What,
absolutely.
so as far as exhaustion and, being in the service, as long as you have, what is it, for the listeners, what would some signs of exhaustion maybe look like on the outside to some, like, so let's just say, your officer's getting burned out, have you been able to ever notice some, outside attributes that others might be able to notice that, hey man, we're starting to burn this captain or lieutenant out?
Sure. I can tell you how I've reacted to it in the past. And of course there's ebbs and flows, right? I mean, there's
Mm,
moments I'm really engaged and everything's fine. And then there are times when I just feel like I'm at my limit. I can't do it anymore. So what that would probably look like for somebody watching me is they'd probably be looking at isolation more than anything.
mm,
When I start feeling burned out, I just kind of try to avoid conversations. I go to my office, shut the door, and just have a moment. And when
yeah.
those moments start happening more and more frequently, that I think that's probably, at least for me, like that's a watch out sign.
Yeah, I
And
like it.
that's how I know it's time to take time off too.
I like it.
So yeah,
What,
this has been great.
what kind of support, I mean, we'll sort of kind of go down this route a little bit, and it's not mental health support, but just some support that you feel departments might be able to give their officers to kind of help avoid some of this burnout.
Well, I think peer support programs can help with that. We have an EAP, but I think it really depends on the individual. I know for me, like in-person talk therapy has never really helped. Um,
Mm,
I mean, it's helped me get a few things off my chest, but inevitably, it seems from my experience, for whatever reason, every counselor I've ever seen at some point misses an appointment, forgets
yeah.
I was coming in, and then I'm done. Like I don't want to talk anymore.
Right.
If you're not
Right.
going to make me your priority, then I'm out. So I think firefighters need to speak with people who are in the service.
Mm,
They just do like that. And I think that peer support is probably the key to that. Probably more
yeah.
so than any kind of an outside therapy or somebody that might be able
Mm,
to give their perspective as a civilian or
yeah.
whatever. It's not the same thing. Uh,
I'll be honest with you. I've had a couple of guests on so far that we've talked. We kind of went down the deep, dark mental health and stuff like that in the fire service, and they've had to use their EAPs before.
yeah,
I've not ever heard shining star, and I'm not saying that this is the case across the board, but I've not really heard shining, examples of how the EAP really understands what employees and it might, maybe it's just the fire service, maybe if it's the administrative at the town offices, people might need help, but for as far as when it comes to just having to offload what's on our chest, I don't think that any municipality's EAP is even close to being able to handle what they're expected of when it comes to us trying to get the help that we need for stuff. And burnout, I will say, this is just JP's honest opinion. But I think burnout really is the first step before going, before we venture down those really dark, deep paths, because that's sort of that's the cracked door, so to speak, that the stress and all that PTSD is really where people start to
yeah, hundred
mosey
percent,
down into it.
100%. And just further observation from my point of view, I think that there's two things that contribute to that as far as talk there in EAPs go. Number one, the selection of people that you can see is limited. Right,
Mhm.
they have a list of people that are available or that can or within network, so to speak.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
number two, they also come from typically. I don't know many therapists that have ever been in the service,
Yeah.
or so when you're talking to them, they'll look at you when you're saying something, and they have to remind you, like, that's not normal, right? Like, I know that's why I'm here.
Right?
So there's a level of understanding there that you just won't get from anybody outside of the service, I think.
I'm very much so a fan of departments that end up teaming up with companies that have specialists that understand the fire service.
100%.
I know out here there is one in a I'm not too far from Manchester, New Hampshire, and there's a company up there that specializes in first responder stuff. A really good friend, actually, his sister just opened up another one a little bit closer to us that she specializes in veteran and first responder stuff, and it's so good to see because those are the places that the EAP just can't do it. I mean, and without sounding like a cynical son of a bitch, the EAP really to me is just one of those feel good things. Like, well, we offered you something in case you were having a bad day, whether it
Yep.
be some financial assistance tips, or you need somebody to talk to because you're having dark thoughts type thing. Like, well, we did our best, we checked our box, and
Yeah.
it's very much like the HR department. The HR department is never there to protect the employees; it's always
That's
there to
right.
protect
They don't work for you.
the company. Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. No, this is. Do you think do you think that our culture allows for leaders to be able to admit that they're struggling? And now it doesn't have to be mental illness. Even if like you're having a really really tough day, do you think that the calls are either wearing on you or you're just stressed out because you have so much that came down from the front office that you got to handle? Do you think that the culture is really in a position that is able to handle that demand?
That's that's a really interesting question. So I'm going to be careful how I respond to it.
Right.
I do think that lower seniority staff kind of look up to their leadership in a certain way. So I do think that in that sense, the leaders have some responsibility to put on the persona, right? Like,
Hmm.
I'm fine, everything's great. You'll be fine, everything's just great. Um, I do think that we do have some of that responsibility, but we also need the freedom to not be okay as well.
Mm.
And I think the workaround to that is maybe an independent, like officers only club, so to speak, right?
Sure. Yeah,
So
yeah.
that officer has someone a peer that he can speak to and can
Mm.
deal with all of that. And then he doesn't ever have to worry about exposing that kind of softer side to his subordinates, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense. I mean,
No, I love it. Yeah.
it's just kind of my firsthand observation on it. I'd have to put some more thought into it. It's a really interesting question. So I'll do that. Maybe next time we speak, maybe we can revisit this
Yeah,
one.
no, for sure. I I've yet to meet a guest where I'm not like, we gotta have more conversations. um, I mean, so I've already stolen an hour of your time tonight, and I think we've hit a lot of really good stuff.
You haven't stolen
Um,
anything, JP. I enjoyed every
yeah,
second of it.
awesome. Um, before we wrap up, it's sort of a question that I ask all of our all my guests is if only one thing from today's conversation can stick in the listener's ears and head and mind, what do you hope that their biggest takeaway is?
Oh, wow. There's so many good conversations. I think I'd have to put my finger on the way we're treating our reserves staff. Was probably the one thing that it's so important. We can't do it without them. Uh, so many departments are understaffed as it is. I know we wouldn't survive without them.
Mm,
The funding just isn't there, and the the best way to help the community, in my opinion, is to help those that are helping the community, and that includes our volunteers, reserves, however you want to
sure.
address them. But yeah, it's so important. We cannot do it without them. And then honestly, that's the one takeaway I think I would want everybody to really focus on is how do we retain these people? How do we keep them involved? And how do we pave a path forward for them so that don't they're not 2-year burnouts?
Mm, oh, I love it. I think the best way to keep them in is to make sure you treat them right.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Yep.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you again for your time. And thanks for those that were here listening and spending time with us on The Passionate Leader. Today, our guest, Jason Freeman. He's a captain in the fire service, and him and I had a hell of a great conversation about leadership in the fire service. If something today hit home, don't just let it fade, share it, put it into action. More importantly, be that leader someone else is hoping shows up to you. And if you want more conversations like this, make sure you're following The Passionate Leader across every platform so you never miss what's next. Whatever the job throws your way, remember this, everybody. Lead with passion, serve with humility, and leave no room for bottom feeders. Until we meet again, stay safe.